what's going on? It's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. You already know we got the bros back in the building. Big Trav and Johnny, game time. What's going on, boys? How y'all feeling?
What up, Pat?
We're
What's going
feeling
on to the
we're
Fees
feeling
Nation,
all
man?
right.
Dog, listen. First off, your boy's on a 2-game win streak out here, so I'm feeling a little bit
Don't look
better.
now.
World
We out
might be
here.
creeping back into them playoffs. You know what I'm talking about? Got some nice pieces up in here. But man, listen, we appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking with us as always, man. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk fantasy sports weekly. We've been doing this show now, pretty much the whole year in fantasy wise, right?
Yeah.
It's about the whole year. So just about every Tuesday, we've been doing this show and giving you your waiver wire pickups, your do's and don'ts, and just talking general fantasy, as always, answering your questions on here. So make sure that y'all stay in tune with us on that and rock with the boys over at the Fantasy Whispers on their YouTube to keep up with all the fantasy talk, all the fantasy content, man. They got a ton of stuff going on over there that is literally killing it right now. Great information that I've used to get back on this little bitty 2-game win streak. Might even be going on a 3 if this week goes well for me. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Manifest it, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, got to make it happen. Got to make it manifest, man. The one thing I will say that will help me and a lot of fantasy owners today, if we could stop the vagueness down in Carolina, can somebody tell me what the heck is going on with Christian McCaffrey? Is based on what you guys are hearing, what you guys are seeing, is he supposed to be coming off and playing this week? We heard week 9. Now we're hearing possibly week 9, week 10. What are you guys hearing in the circles of Christian McCaffrey? And is Chuba Hubbard? I mean, he hasn't really been panned out down there either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically hearing about the same you are, Pat. Matt Rule said this week that he wasn't sure if it was going to be week 9 or even week 10. This could be coach speak. This could be them just kind of messing with the opponent.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how this plays out when he gets back to practice. But remember, like, he was set to come back, and then they shut him down and put him on the IR. So it was definitely a setback that put him on the IR in the first place. So it's something that I think they'll probably be more cautious than they have ever been with CMC, because remember last year they didn't put him on IR. When they finally brought him back, they just shoved 30 carries down his throat pretty much as soon as he got back. So it's a coaching staff that maybe's learned their lesson. I don't like to assume rational coaching, but sometimes you can in this situation.
So is there still hope down there with that Carolina situation? I mean, they've really, it was like Sam Darnold's the greatest quarterback of all time, and now he's regressed. Chuba Hubbard, oh my God, this is the perfect replacement. Now he's regressed. Is there anybody on that Carolina offense that's even worth taking at this point?
I mean, even DJ Moore, he started off hot and he's cooled off a little bit. It's a little baffling what all is going on down there. You know, you have all this like, oh, they don't like Sam Darnold anymore. They're off him. He can't run the offense.
Yeah.
And then he's, popping up every once in a while and making good plays.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned with this offense. You talk about CMC potentially coming back. This screams to me like the reason why he doesn't want to set a time on this is because they might want to initially try to bring him back, maybe next week or the following week.
Yeah.
And they've already seen him have a setback by trying to rev him up, and they don't want to necessarily do that again. So they might prolong this. And we've always talked about, coming into the season, when you get these running backs, wide receivers, these athletes that, are definitely relying on their legs and their speed, and then they get a hamstring injury, it usually lingers throughout the entire season, which is why we were kind of suggesting, if you could, a few weeks back, to try to just get off of him if you could. But this is definitely concerning for sure.
Well, let's keep it in the running back position. We saw probably the biggest blow to a running back in the NFL this week in the loss of Derrick Henry. What is the viable option if you're a Derrick Henry owner at this point? I mean, you're probably not going to replace those points with somebody off of even coming off of the bench for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, Derrick Henry's a different kind of runner. You're not going to be able to find somebody that can replace those points. But who are you guys looking at coming into this week that is a good replacement for those Derrick Henry owners?
Yeah, as you said it really well, and I think we need to set expectations with everybody that's out here claiming waivers.
Yeah.
I'm going to put Adrian Peterson as the highest waiver priority here because they went and signed Adrian Peterson. But that doesn't mean that I think Adrian Peterson's going to replace Derrick Henry. There is a Derrick Henry-sized hole in your lineup, and you're going to have to try to replace that in a number of ways. Maybe that's more upside at wide receiver coupled with an Adrian Peterson or something like that. But let's talk a little bit about AP, right? Because he hasn't been signed at all this year, but if we look, we don't have to go back very far. He was used in Detroit, he was used in Washington the year before that, and he's had 13 games where he's had 14 or more carries, and in those games he's had 10 or more PPR fantasy points in those games. So we know that when they give him the rock, he fits the mold of that grinder, that guy that can grind it out. And no team is running the ball more per game than Tennessee. And you talked about it. Is that because of Derrick Henry or because of Tennessee? Probably because of both of them. But we like what we see for Tennessee to be able to stick to their identity as much as possible with Derrick Henry out. I think AP makes a lot of sense, and I think that's why they went to him. And he'd be my ad over Jeremy McNichols. But if you prefer the youth and you don't like that risk, then make sure you invest in McNichols too, because we should be investing in that rushing offense. We've seen it do big things, obviously with Derrick Henry, but we know that they want to run the ball.
Listen, if you want to dial back the years, then you drink up that youth Gatorade and you get McNichols. All right. That's what Big Travie is trying to tell you. No, I think it's funny. Like, once again, Adrian Peterson, it's not like Adrian Peterson is built different, right? Yeah. He can still get it done. It might not be the prettiest, but like Big Travie said, he's going to get carries. Like, they're going to you got to realize, like, they were giving Derrick Henry 30 carries a game, just pure running, right? And so, sure, are they going to give Adrian Peterson that? No, but he should see 17, 18 carries. And, it's Adrian Peterson, man, all day.
It is interesting when you look at AP, how he's gone from being like one of the greatest running backs of all time to now he's just a regular running back. It's like your regression was just like, now I'm kind of like the rest of you guys. It's kind of funny when you think about it. If you have the opportunity, I mean, is AP the way you want to go? Or is there a little bit of love still for maybe what they got going on in Philadelphia with a Boston Scott and Jordan Howard? Now, both of them kind of getting carries. I saw Boston Scott, I believe, rostered in about 20% of leagues. But the interesting thing there is you saw Gainwell getting those touches the week before. All of a sudden, he got nothing the next week. I thought Gainwell was going to be the guy they go to. It looks like Boston Scott's going to be the guy that they're going to take on those carries, but it's still Philly. Do you want to kind of look at the situation in Philly if you're going to pick somebody up off of waivers and a Boston Scott, maybe a Jordan Howard? I don't love Jordan Howard. I love him when he was here, but it's been a long time since he was here. You know,
when he was hitting the jugs machine.
Yeah, it's been a while since then. You know what I'm saying? So, what are you guys thinking in a running back situation in that case?
Yeah, the problem with Boston Scott is he's likely a rental because Miles Sanders is on the IR, so that's 3-game-ish window that he'll come back and probably resume the starting role. The other thing is we were hyped on Gainwell. He was going to come in and potentially be able to somebody, the youth, the rookie, the guy they like, they use him in the passing game. And they literally gave every one of these guys at least 12 carries in the last game. And they all, Jordan Howard and Boston Scott scored 4 touchdowns between each other. So that's not going to happen. Right. You're not going to play Detroit every week and get 4 touchdowns from your running back. So, we've really got to take it with a grain of salt here and look at it like Boston Scott is the guy that's going to run with the ones. We saw in the first game that Sanders went out in that it was Boston Scott in the red zone, and they used Boston Scott again in the red zone in this game. So I think if we're trying to peg who's going to be the guy while Sanders is out, we've got to put our hat on one of these guys. And I actually think it's Boston Scott who's set up right now to do that. Remember, when Sanders went down last year, he filled in, was RB2-ish borderline last year in some relief of Miles Sanders.
The thing you got to monitor too is game script, right? That's the other thing. Big Travie talked about Detroit, right? Detroit gives up a lot of yards on the ground, but this week they're against the Chargers, and the Chargers they're a little bit more stout up front, but you can attack them through pass catching. And I'm not saying I'm a big fan of Boston Scott. Boston Scott can pass catch. It's been interesting watching how they've been using running backs in Philadelphia, and the usage as far as what Boston Scott got last week is going to heavily be dictated by their matchup week to week.
Another guy that we saw kind of get an interesting increase and still not rostered on a lot of teams as far as I'm seeing. Devonta Freeman. He got that big touchdown there. I mean, you're looking at it and you're like, can I trust running back position anywhere in Baltimore, especially with Lamar down there? You know what I'm saying? But what are you guys seeing on Devonta Freeman? Should guys be looking at him if those other two guys, AP, Boston, Scott, Jordan Howard, guys like that are already gone?
Freeman is an interesting one because you'd like to think that eventually in some of these committees somebody should emerge as the guy. The problem with Freeman is that he scored in back-to-back weeks, and
Yeah.
that's kind of buoyed his numbers. I don't want to be chasing the points here with Freeman when we know they're going to use not only just all the different running backs, but Lamar Jackson in the red zone. You know, they're not going to – Lamar Jackson is the RB1 for that team. We know that. And so that's kind of where we're at with it at this point. And it's just not – it's not the Baltimore we got excited about with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins because it's not as smooth of a running game to complement with Lamar Jackson. I would actually pivot here, Pat, and go with a guy in Carlos Hyde if you're looking past these two guys.
Yeah.
Because now if James Robinson isn't able to go or misses extended time with this ankle injury, and we know how finicky ankles can be, we've just seen Saquon and Miles Sanders be knocked out with ankles.
Yeah.
So if that's the
another one.
case, look, I'm not a huge fan of Carlos Hyde's talent at this point in his career, but Urban Meyer is, and he's got a love connection with Carlos Hyde here, and he's going to give him the rock pretty much like he was giving it to James Robinson before Robinson went down. So it's a tough matchup against the Bills. It's tough game script, but Hyde should see enough volume to get you through a couple of these tough weeks via buys or injuries.
Switch a position out of the running back room. Interesting situation down in Atlanta. What's going on with Russell Gage? I thought Russell Gage was going to be somebody that was going to see an increase last week, especially with the loss of Calvin Ridley due to mental issues. Get well soon, brother. But it's interesting to see him not even get looked that way at all. And the increase and another increased value in Cordero Patterson, which hurts me a little bit every time I see him score a touchdown. I'm not going to lie to you.
He is balling.
Yeah, man, he's not stopping at all.
No.
But what is the value on a Russell Gage on the waiver wires right now, especially coming into week 9? You know, we're getting into it where it's slim pickings at this point, boys. You're trying to find anything. Is there any value in a Russell Gage down there? Maybe getting a resurgence this week in Atlanta.
I would say I'm going to say this and then watch. He's just going to have the best game ever. But no, I would say he belongs still on your waiver wire. The thing is that the concern coming into the season with Russell Gage is when anytime a coach talks about, hey, I'm scheming up plays for this guy because I need to get him more involved in an offense, that screams concern for me, because that means that he doesn't fit in your offense. You see and notice he is a good player, but he doesn't fit your scheme. So in order to fit him in there, you're giving him a limited number of snaps and plays per game. And so that was the concern coming in. And like you alluded to, sure, the Ridley injury or the Ridley stepping away from football for we don't know how long, right? It just increases Cordero Patterson's value. And I just think that they're going to also rely more on Kyle Pitts as well. So those are the two main beneficiaries for this offense, and those are kind of the two that you want the most. Also, Mike Davis now should see an uptick again, because with more, Cordero is getting a lot of those carries, but now they're also splitting them out when Ridley is out. So he is getting the wide receiver as well, which is great. Fantasy glitch. We love it. But this now reemergence, this would bring the reemergence of Mike Davis now.
Yeah, we used to love guys that were the secondary pieces or ancillary pieces in this offense back when Atlanta was throwing top 5 in the league. They're not that offense anymore. They're under Arthur Smith now. They're going to be more balanced. They're going to be slower. They're about 15th in the league in passing attempts when they've lived in the top 5 in previous years.
Mm-hmm. It is a lot. I mean, dog, every time I see Cordero score, first off, because Kid offered me Cordero, I think for nobody. I'm trying to remember who he offered me.
Oh, no.
And I was like, nah, man, I don't trust Cordero. I don't think he's going to let. Yeah, that was a mistake on my part. That could have saved my season a long time ago. But we're getting it back right. For those people who are out there who have a little bit of quarterback concern, we saw the issue. We saw the situation where Jameis goes out. they got two quarterbacks down there. You got Trevor Siemian, you got Taysom Hill. We know Sean Payton has played with Taysom Hill, trust Taysom Hill. Trevor Siemian didn't look half bad in that Saints offense, which I think Sean Payton is the official quarterback whisperer. Like anybody
Oh my gosh.
I put in there is going to have some kind of talent because I know how to do this. Let me be me. Who are you guys looking at down in New Orleans that you think if somebody needs a quarterback this week? I know Kid's in a 2-quarterback league. He picked up Trevor Siemian instead of Taysom. Who's the one that's going to get that uptick in play this coming week?
So this week, I don't exactly know. We have concussion protocol that Taysom Hill is working through, but Sean Payton said today that he's on schedule. So that would tell me that he's on schedule to come back from concussion protocol. Whether that means he's on schedule to come back and start, I don't know. But I don't know if it matters, Pat. I want to go pick up Taysom Hill because in 4 games last year, he was an absolute fantasy stud. Was he the greatest quarterback for them? No, but I mean, they won games, but he wasn't, going to go out there and be like a gunslinger. But I'll tell you what, he was QB4, QB8, and QB11 on each of those weeks. That's a top 12 finish in each of those weeks and a couple top 5s in there. We really, really like that. The rushing floor is there for him. And this offense, if it can, he knows it like the back of its hand. Yeah, like the back of his hand, and we've got Mark Ingram back in town. We've got the running game going for them, and then soon Michael Thomas should be back in this lineup in the next couple of weeks. So there's some upside here, sneakily, for Taysom Hill to be one of those post, late season, league winners for you.
Definitely interesting to see what's going on down there because to me, it's like you don't know what Peyton. I mean, if Simeon's throwing the ball, you might still want to go get a Taysom Hill because of all the other ways they use him down there.
Right.
How much of a fantasy impact does it have, even if he's not the starting quarterback, but he can get some running receiver, especially now with no starting quarterback. He might get an uptick in running receiver, might get a couple of those special plays, might get some end zone run. We've seen them do a lot of that down there with Taysom. What do you guys think? Even if Trevor's the starter, what's the value on Taysom?
Well, if you got him in a league where he's got the tight end dual eligibility, that's where you really want to smash that. But that has kind of been taken away since he became the quarterback, kind of more designation. So if he doesn't start, I'm not as high unless he's got that tight end designation. But I think you're right. If we could start watching over the next couple of weeks, if they say, oh, Simeon, work us between the 20s and then let Taysom kind of be this red zone gadget guy, that could have some value from week to week. I mean, we're playing touchdown dependent running back sometimes, so I could see some value in there.
Interesting. Definitely interesting. Another player who's not been rostered a ton, but I think it's going to add value. I put my waiver in on him. Devonta Parker. I'm seeing him rostered. I mean, I know at the beginning of the year, everybody was like, well, let's throw this guy back in the waiver pile. But he's kind of fought his way back up to the top of a lot of what they're doing down there in Miami. And Tua seems to like him when he's out there. What are you guys seeing on a Devonta Parker? Is this a guy that people need to go after and attack now so that they can get him on the team early?
Bro, he's like Will Smith, man. Nobody wants him. They kick him back to the waiver wire. It's unfortunate.
He's the first one in, last one off the waiver. First one in, passing out on the waiver.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
So if we go back to last season, Pat, Johnny, we see that Devonta Parker in 10 games, he had 7 or more targets in those games with Tua. So we like that. We like the chemistry that they've shown together. He seemed to be the possession guy, but now they're using him even as the deeper threat because they have Waddle towards the line of scrimmage in the slot, and they've got Gesicki up the seam, so to speak. So I really like Parker. If he can stay healthy, that's been the big if. He reminds me of Sterling Shepard, where it's like these guys are really good at what they do. We really like them for fantasy, and they always break our hearts and probably break their own heart because they can't stay on the field.
It's interesting to see like those guys that get just launched on the waiver wire and then you pick them back up, launched on or as soon as you get rid of them, of course now they have the game of their life. Another guy who I think unfortunately I think will benefit from the Raiders having one less receiver. Very unfortunate situation out there, but I really think that I've seen Hunter Renfrow only rostered in 42% of leagues, and especially if you are a PPR fan, is Hunter Renfrow somebody that if he's in your league you need to be smashing right now? I know the a little up and down early in the season, a little bit like it was if he was getting it or not. But I think right now he's probably going to see more balls than not. What are you guys thinking on a Hunter Renfrow?
Certainly like him as a waiver wire pickup. He, if you need wide receiver help, like you said, he does have that connection with Derek Carr. It will be interesting to see. So he plays the slot,
Yeah,
right, when most oftentimes, and it'll be interesting that what his target market share ends up becoming when he's moved over and to the outside, taking over that wide receiver 2 role. We'll see if he ends up getting, you like the fact that Derek Carr loves to push the ball down the field. Renfrow, he is a talented wide receiver that can catch. So I do think that his value relatively stays about what it is. Maybe he gets a slight uptick because he's on the field a little bit more. But ultimately, I do think this really helps out Waller. Like Darren Waller, the people that had drafted him, and we've been kind of wondering where he's been. He has been dealing with some ailments, but I think this opens up again because you'll move Renfrow to the side, but now it's that whole middle of the field, and Renfrow was getting a lot of those targets, taking him away from Waller. Well, now that middle of the field now belongs to Waller again, and so I do think this might be a really good opportunity to actually go and try to acquire Waller right now, because I think that his market share could start to go back up, that was the problem, right? The market share, when he was booming and being one of the top 2 tight ends, he was getting 28% of the market share of the targets for the Raiders. That had dipped all the way down to like 18-19%. And so, but that was because of the emergence of Ruggs and as well as Renfrow. So I do think that that's the biggest kind of piece of the pie. And then also look out for Bryan Edwards. We'll see if he can step up, but again, he's closer to the line of scrimmage. He's
Zay
like
Jones is an interesting one. It's deeper
Zay
league
Jones.
and something to just keep an eye on. I wouldn't go run and pick him up over like a Renfrow, but Zay Jones is a guy that fits kind of the Ruggs style of the deep threat, the guy, the burner, and that could allow all these other guys to kind of stay in their role and where they need to be. And then instead of giving those targets to maybe Zay Jones or Ruggs, they're giving them to the other guys, as Johnny said.
Yeah.
We want to remind you guys, you can send in your fantasy questions here, man. The Fantasy Whisperers are here to answer your fantasy questions. Let's get, I got one from the Twitterverse. This is coming from a couple of my guys in the league we're playing in.
That's nice
league.
of you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I help them out. What is the value on a Kyle Pitts right now with the up and downness of his game? We saw him put up, I believe, 22 weeks ago, 20 points, and last week 3 in a week where they completely lost one of their biggest wide receivers. So who is the real Kyle Pitts? Is it Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde?
It's going to be it's real quick answer for me. It's going to be a combination of both. We have to remember he's a rookie. He's a rookie tight end. It bodes well the confidence. You heard the rumors that they were potentially shopping Hurst. That bodes well for their confidence in Pitts moving forward. But again, he is a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. He had a couple of mistakes in this game, I believe. That one could have potentially been a touchdown that kind of just hit him in the hands and literally just dropped it. Like they almost went to the replay and they're like, what happened? What did we miss? Because Kyle Pitts generally doesn't do this. So I do think it is, but it's also the landscape. I mean, look at, I was just complaining beforehand, before the show, we were talking about Kansas City. I mean, Travis Kelce put up a 0.7. That's what I got. 0.7 from Travis Kelce, the best tight end, the most.
He's not mad about it at all.
And I'm not bitter. No, not bitter at all. I'm just, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like worst game in the last 2 years. First time he's fumbled, in a year. Week 6 of 2020 was the last time he fumbled, and he only does it once a year, and it had to be last night, of course. But so
I think just to echo Johnny's point about the environment or the landscape of tight end here. I mean, if we're talking about it, it's about adjusting expectations. We know that this position is going to be up and down, and there are a few tight ends that can do what Pitts did. In week 5, he had 26 points in PPR, had a bye week, and then in week 7, he had 23 points. Yes, he gave you 3 last week, but if you had to sit here and say which tight ends can give me 20 plus fantasy points in PPR, that list is very small. Travis Kelce, Waller, Mark Andrews, and now we're talking about this guy, Kyle Pitts in Atlanta, because he's living up to some of that draft hype. And that is what you're going to get. He's going to be up and down, but every tight end is. We were talking about Crown and TJ Hawkinson, then we were mad at him, and now he's back to tight end 4 in PPR. This is just what they do. You just got to ride the ebbs and flows of tight end and realize The big thing we want to see, high snap percentage, and the fact that they're running routes on those snaps. They're not just staying into block. That's the things you want to look for.
I think Kelsey had a lot of us fooled because he was the like leading receiver down there a few times. Just like,
I'll tell you what it is, Pat. You can't shave the beard. You guys, you shave the beard.
Shave the beard, dog.
Dude, that was so detrimental.
I'll tell you what. I'll say this. Andy Dalton's beard looking great. I wish the Bears had tried to trade him to somebody because that would have been a success story.
Just on beard alone.
On the beard alone, dog. Great head of hair, great beard. This guy's killing it out here.
He's killing it on that bench, warming it up.
Man, keeping it real warm for us. Trey asks, I was offered Antonio Brown and James Conner in a full PPR. My other receivers are Robert Wood, Judy, Michael Thomas, and A-Rod. Dog, what are you playing in a 10-team lead? This is a ridiculous lineup. Running backs are Eckler, Henderson, Gaskin. Jesus Christ. And Chris Carson. Thoughts and thanks. Well, what would you be sending out? That would be
that's the
I'd have, but
he was offered Antonio Brown for James Conner.
Got it.
For James Conner. I missed that. I thought it was James Conner. Yeah, reading fundamental. Antonio Brown for James Conner in a full PPR. How you guys feeling about that one?
I might. This one's tough. We don't know what Antonio Brown's ankle and heel is going to be. Like we've been told that it could be before the bye. Then they're on the bye. So I don't know. I would like to get AB normally in a PPR, but I think looking at your other running backs here, what did he say here? He had Eckler, Henderson, Gaskin, and Chris Carson. So really Eckler and Henderson are the guys you're leaning on.
Yeah.
And Connor's been kind of nice for you, I imagine, because he's been that touchdown dependent guy you can kind of slide in. And I think, given your RB
Tyler dealing with the ankle injury right now too could spell that they would use Connor a little bit more over the next couple of weeks too.
Yeah, I don't
That's an interesting one because
it's
weird because like James Conner, it's like you see his point production and you're like, without watching the game, you would think like this guy's getting touches every time. Then you see his touches and it's like 6 carries. It's like, wait, what the heck was that? How do you, but 2 touchdowns, okay.
Like,
yes, then I definitely lead here. Yeah, that was you gotta lead with Eli Mitchell, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I'm good with this deal. If you have enough backs and you like your depth and you can get AB and play the upside after the bye.
Is he in an 8-team league?
I know.
Maybe he's just.
How do you have so many backs?
First off, he probably just he could work that waiver wire. You never know.
That is wild, dog. Like that. I'm just looking at it and I'm like, I'm trying to find out. Can I get the 3rd string running back? You're talking about James Conner right now.
Yeah.
Here's a question.
Dude, I like it.
He said a 10-team. Okay, so all right, he's the best player in the league. Clearly, he's dominated this league. Should I stick with both Rams D and Matt Gay now that Henry is out?
Yeah. So this line changed quite a bit. Initially, the Rams were only favored by 4 at home. It is now jumped up by 2 points on the over-under, and they're favored by 7.5 now at home. So you like that for your defense, and you love that for your kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Damian going through it right now, man. He says, "Who the hell can I replace Ruggs with?"
Well,
he said, "I'll take anybody."
I'm mad. Yeah, I mean, Devonta Parker was a good one that Pat brought up. Kudos to Pat there. I think Alan Lazard is a sneakier, deeper pickup because he's coming off of COVID. And this is a team that just lost Robert Tonyan. They were in the market for another tight end, so they wanted to replace some of those targets. I mean, obviously Tonyan wasn't dominating this year, but I do think that Lazard and Adams were kind of doing a double team as far as the passing attack before the Arizona game when they both missed. So I actually think that could they're getting MVS back, so there's that stuff. But I think if somebody arrives as a second option in that Green Bay passing attack, we're going to want that in fantasy.
Let me ask you, do you believe, sorry, I didn't want to hijack the show here, Pat, but the Randall Cobb, right? 2 touchdowns, could have had 3, right? In the last Cardinals versus Packers. Travis, do you believe in Randall Cobb as that? Like, what if the answer is Randall Cobb is like the James Jones of a couple of years ago, where he just comes back, reunites with Aaron Rodgers throws him 10 touchdowns?
No. Well, maybe he could throw him 6 to 9 touchdowns.
Nah.
But I'll tell you, like he has
but
one. his highest catch game is 5, and then the rest of his catches are 3 and 2 per game. Like, it's just not enough volume for Cobb to be a guy. He's just not as electric of a playmaker for him to demand targets. I think Lazard, who they use in the running game, so he plays more snaps, they use him as a blocker. Then he gets in there in the red zone, got the big body. I think he's a guy that can replace Thiemann as a red zone target and kind of be a guy for this team.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to ask you. Do you think that Cobb being, I mean, we saw him last week, like you said, only 5 or 6 targets, but when he got in the red zone, Aaron went to the guy he trusted.
For sure.
Could he be that James Conner type of player, not at the running back position, but at the wideout where, yeah, Aaron's going to go to other guys to get down there, but once he's down there, he's going to go to the guy that he knows his hands, he knows where to put the ball for him to come away with it. He can be that touchdown-dependent wideout for you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's got one of those. It's called Devonta Adams. That's his guy. He just wasn't in the other night, you know? He only wants to throw to 17. Let's be real. That's he'd throw to him every time if he could.
Well, I mean, let's be real. Yeah, 50 touchdowns. Devonta Adams had 19. Somebody else had to be catching it.
Tunyon got like 13 of them.
It was Tunyon.
It was Tunyon.
Here's a question again coming from the Twitterverse. Opportunity to pick up both Jeremy McNichols and Adrian Peterson on waiver wires. Only room for one. Which one should I get?
For me, it's AP. He fits the style better. We've only seen McNichols get 7 carries. A lot of people are telling me on Twitter, oh, well, McNichols is going to be like that pass catching role.
Yeah.
For who? The Tennessee Titans don't throw to the running back. They never have. That's what we've been screaming about Derrick Henry for years. That's not going to happen all of a sudden now. And maybe it does. I'm not betting on that. I'm betting on what I've seen from AP, which is when they give him 13, 14 rushes, he ends up scoring you about 10 points a game. And that's good points I want in my lineup.
Here's one says picked up Ryan Tannehill off of the waiver wire, which is interesting. I don't know who dropped Tannehill all of a sudden, but should I start him moving forward with the loss of Derrick Henry?
I mean, it depends on who else you have. And I mean, he's been struggling as well. That's like a little bit of a shock as well coming into the season, Pat, is that Ryan Tannehill has really struggled. Now, once again, could they all of a sudden start to be more pass happy? We would all love that. We would all wish that. But so far from what we're hearing from beat reporters or people that are around the team is that they don't plan on changing their and this is what we've also seen with coaches, right? They don't plan on changing. They have an algorithm, and their algorithm works according to themselves, and so they're going to continue to use that and go with that kind of overall scheme. Now, could you see a couple more pass options for Tannehill? Yeah, but I think ultimately it is going to be a lot of the same of what we've seen.
One of the reasons I'm kind of firm on the AP take is because if we remember the offseason, guys, we were talking about A.J. Brown and before Julio Jones got there about all these vacated targets. Corey Davis was gone. Jonnu Smith was gone. Adam Humphries was gone. Yeah. These players that were going to allow more targets for A.J. Brown. But we didn't talk about enough is how that could actually hurt Tannehill. And I think we're seeing that this year because Julio hasn't been healthy. A.J. Brown had his own, health battles, Chipotle or whatever. But we've got situations here where we've got to figure out if Tannehill is actually going to be worth it or if he's just that streamer because they just don't have enough firepower on the outside.
What I think a lot of people miss with Tannehill too is that if you watch those Tennessee games from last season, not too dissimilar from what they do in Kansas City, but there's a lot of underneath routes that you just have amazing wide receivers take a long way. Or you have, what I'm saying? Tyreek Hill turns a bubble screen into a 40-yard touchdown. Yeah, it looks great because you see 40-yard touchdown. You don't realize that it's a bubble screen. We saw a ton of that with Ryan Tannehill last year. And I think, like you said, taking away a lot of those weapons, I think it devastated his game because it lessened who he was able to go to. And I think that was just the route they wanted to take. They were like, listen, we're going running back heavy no matter what. Tannehill just don't turn the ball over, which at least he's been somewhat decent in that regard.
We're gonna see how Tennessee's gonna react. They just lost the big dog, man. That's a big one. I'm interested to see how they're gonna adjust with this one. And Vrabel's got those boys well coached for the most part. Yeah, so this will be a big test of adversity.
The interesting thing to me is, in my opinion, there have only been 2. And I of course, Chicago, home of running backs, sweetness, love them, great backs. But there have only been 2 running backs in history that have been the reason their team won 110%, like the reason they're in the playoffs, and that is Adrian Peterson with that Vikings team. He was the reason that they were making the playoffs every year. With a good defense as well, but offensively he was and Derrick Henry. Those are the two.
Maybe they see that AP won an MVP there, and they saw Derrick Henry was in the conversation. Maybe they're going to try and pound it out with it. I don't know.
Maybe.
Here's another good one. I think Jameson, Crowder, or Darnell Mooney. Now Darnell Mooney got his season high in targets this week, but fellas, Matt Nagy's on his way back, and that is the reason.
Yeah.
That is the reason that the offense looked better, that he was not there. I've got a little inside contact in there. I was like, can y'all hold him in COVID for a little while longer? Do I need to cough on him? Yeah. I'll do it. I'll take the L. Was it weekend in prison? Probably weekend in prison. You get out, it's fine.
Yeah,
but no, Darnell Mooney.
Hey, but everyone in there will be cheering you on, so you'll have a good time in there, dude.
You know what I'm saying? As long as it's Chicago prison.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Darnell Mooney or Jameson Crowder. Jameson Crowder saw an uptick in usage as well this week, and maybe this is the breakout game he needed.
Yeah, I think I would lean on Darnell Mooney here because I think the upside's a little bit better. We know what Crowder is. He's going to demand targets from the slot, but they've got a ton of wide receivers cycling through, and I think that kind of creates a revolving door at times for the Jets. Plus these backs, both Ty Johnson and Michael Carter have seen a lot of work in the passing game, so that could soak up a lot of targets away from Jameson Crowder in any given game too, where Darnell Mooney has a real opportunity here to establish himself as the number one on that team. Now, that's because this team runs so much, they pass so little, that there's not a lot for him to need to be the number one. And Robinson's played so bad, and maybe not really he's played so bad, but the offense has played so bad and set him up for so much failure this year. But yeah, I like Mooney's upside a whole lot more than Crowder's safe floor.
Here's another one coming in here from Mr. Curly Wolf friggin' Ruggs. But how do we feel about DJ Moore and Mike Williams?
I think better days are ahead for both of those wide receivers. I do think, again, Carolina was doing something right in the beginning of the season, obviously, and DJ Moore was a big piece of that. I think they will try to get back to that, right? Especially if a guy like CMC can come back, it will also help DJ Moore. And I do think, Mike Williams as well start off really, really hot. Do I think he's going to return, back to that wide receiver one numbers overall? No, I don't think he'll quite get there. But I do think that there are better days than what we've seen in the last. I mean, you also, it's taking it with, you've also have the struggles of their quarterback. And that's also a part of it that no one's really talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Herbert in Mike Williams' case, like he's coming off back-to-back games in between the bye or on the other side of the bye against Harbaugh and against Belichick, two of the better defensive minds in the league. He's a second-year guy. He's going to take his lumps. We can kind of forgive him for that if it continues over the next few weeks, but he's got games against Philly, Minnesota, some other teams that aren't as strong defensively as some of these other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Tight end question coming in here. Pat Freiermuth or Tyler Conklin?
So this will depend. Yeah, Conklin. I know it trips up Johnny a couple times too.
Yeah, it got me.
So Conklin, it would be my pick for this week if you wanted just a 1 week streamer. Yeah. But Pat Freiermuth is the play if you're going season long. So maybe you had Thiemann and you were sticking it out and you lost him to the injury. Yeah. Maybe you have a struggling Higbee and you're trying to pivot. I think that Pat Freiermuth actually shows a lot of promise here, and that's because Ben and this offense really don't mind dinking and dunking, and that's really playing to both Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson. But now, since Juju Smith-Schuster's been out the last couple of weeks, Pat has really shown up here. The other Pat, not just Pat the designer here, but Pat Freiermuth is out here, dealing as well, and Big Ben was told that he was going to like him because he reminded people of Heath Miller, and he's really taken to a liking to this kid. So I do like Pat Freiermuth.
Heath. Sorry, that's just what happens whenever he's Heath Miller is actually from Arizona.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not bad.
Actually,
another Tyler Conklin question. Apparently, he's the target here to go after. Tyler Conklin or Dan Arnold. Dan Arnold I believe, saw 10 targets
I think it was
this
like
week.
8 targets. Yeah.
Or 8 targets,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. He had the yardage.
Yeah, no, Arnold, and here's what we know. We know when Urban Meyer talks about players that he ends up feeding them, and they traded. You're right. He did get 10 targets, and he had another game a couple weeks ago. He had 8 targets. So he's definitely a guy they want to try and feature. This is an offense that's going to throw a lot, but nobody has a better matchup on paper than Tyler Conklin this week because Baltimore gives up 13 points to the tight end. That's more than 2 points more than any other team right now. They are a sieve for the tight end. So we want to get Conklin in our lineup this week.
I do think Dan Arnold for a longer term, similar to Freiermuth, because if you look at that offense, they usually give that tight end, 18 to 20% target market share there. So Dan Arnold should continue to see those kind of targets. So if you need a longer term play, then but Big Trav is absolutely right. We love going with matchups especially when it comes to tight ends. Yeah. Nothing is better than and actually coming to fruition than defenses and tight ends.
Super chat. Shout out to
nice. There you go.
He says, would you trade Chase Edmonds for Kittle? Other backs are Saquon, Kamara, and Swift. So you're dealing with a little bit of the injury bug right now on your team. What are you guys thinking on that? Chase Edmonds for Kittle?
I mean, I hesitate to do this. I really like Chase
with
Edmonds.
All the injury.
Yeah, well, and I like Chase Edmonds' market share in this offense. It's a really good offense, and he's demanded between 15 and 17% on a weekly basis. And he's just been a dynamic runner in space. Kittle, for me, has had some ups and downs, especially with injury over the last couple of years. And this offense is just very weird right now for San Francisco. It hasn't been the same. They haven't been the same Niners that we know. Yeah, I would be hesitating to do this. And I don't usually like to give up a running back for a tight end. I like to be on the other side of that. I'd like to be giving up a tight end and getting a running back in return.
And not only that, Kittle going, if he does end up playing this week, would go against Arizona. Arizona pretty stout against tight ends. They're number 1 against tight ends.
Here's a good question here talking about the Saints defense. Says, is this Saints defense for real to where we should be starting season long?
Your boy dropped him because I was like, Tom Brady. He's playing Tom Brady, and I couldn't hold 2 defenses. Yeah. Your boy dropped him, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. This is for reals. They're for reals. I love the Saints defense.
I'm seeing it is weird too. Like they play the last 2 weeks, 10 plus points, I believe, right?
Yeah, they're talk about like Sean Payton being a quarterback whisperer, which I think you're 100% on or right there. I also think like that defense, like they know how to play defense in New Orleans. Like they're always a good fantasy defense.
Let me give you a peek at some of their games towards fantasy playoff time. New York Jets, Miami Dolphins, Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh my gosh, what have I done, boys?
They've been a little up and down, but yeah, when you're talking about getting towards the playoffs, I mean, last week 15 points, week before that 9, and then they had a drop off versus Washington and versus the Giants, which is interesting to see. But usually Atlanta, Tennessee, Philly, Buffalo, that might be a bad game for them. Denver, the Jets, Tampa Bay, and Miami. Yeah, I'd ride them out.
Pat, and like, how does this offense change with Winston? Because they were trying to mask Winston, and then he would still kind of get a couple turnovers in there. Are they going to go full blown with? Is that why they traded for Ingram, to go full blown with the running game, play to the defense? They know that's their strength this year. So I definitely like this defensive setup.
Another defensive question here: do you like the Panthers D moving forward?
Panthers D is a tough one for me. Have they even played Tampa yet? They'll play them twice, so that one is a little bit tough. Plus, Darnold keeps giving the ball back to the other team, which is putting them on the field a lot. So they have a good squad. I do believe in it, but I think they might be getting hamstrung by their offense here.
Would you like them this week at least? I know they're supposed to be facing Mac Jones this week going for versus a rookie. But Mac Jones has been eating up a lot of teams.
Mac Jones has been.
And New England's favored, I think, by 4 points. So I'd be okay with benching Carolina against New England.
Mac Jones. Sorry, I heard this conversation. I can't remember, maybe NFL Live or something. I don't know. But they were talking about how, remember when the 49ers, they traded up, right? And
Yeah.
the original idea of reason why they did that was to get Mac Jones. Like that's what they all decided. Then everyone in the world were giving him all this flack and being like, why would you do that? That was the dumbest move, which caused them to second guess themselves and then start reevaluating these quarterbacks, because that's why they had all these guys come in for these workouts, because they had their mind set up the whole time on Mac Jones, and turns out Mac Jones was the right answer.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, especially like just it was like I was telling Muggs, like, you can't look at Mac Jones and the rest of the rookie quarterbacks, because like Bill built this team for Mac. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
Bill did not build his team for Cam Newton.
No,
You
he
saw
didn't.
him getting the tight ends in there, the line. I was like, he's taking Mac Jones no matter what.
Yeah. Well, and he set it up to do
man.
both, which is what he did, right? He set it up to be like, okay, if Cam isn't dusted, then he just needs a little bit more help. We'll play to the running game. We'll do that up for him. And then it was, he couldn't even handle the COVID situation. So
honestly, I think that was why they went out and signed. It was kind of very smart on Bill's part, because they went out and got Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson not Jordy Nelson, excuse me, but Aguilar. They went out and got Aguilar because he was one of the best at separating from the corner. Yeah. And that's what Cam Newton needed, because he can't throw open wide receivers, right? Yeah. Right. And so Bill was like, yeah, if Cam is my quarterback, this is what he's going to need. So I'm going to go out and get it. But you're right though. And that he knew all along that even if this plan didn't work out, I know I can fall back on this 2 tight end set with the wide receivers and Jacoby Myers, and I can run it. And he's doing it.
Absolutely. Here's a question from Damien. He says, stupid question. Don't judge Bengals defense or Bears defense. I'll say this. I wouldn't say stupid question, because a Bears defense, if they get Khalil Mack, and I don't know what the latest on Eddie Jackson was. Actually, I didn't see an injury report today, but if they get those pieces back, this Bears defense, especially after getting embarrassed, usually tends to bounce back and dominate that following week. But the Bengals defense has also been a little bit up and down. What do you guys liking there?
This one's tough because they're playing Cleveland, and I would say I wouldn't want to target against Cleveland here, but Pittsburgh just had a decent day, fantasy defense wise against Cleveland. But I will give you the nod here on Chicago, and the reason why is the over under per Vegas is 40 points. This is the lowest over under on the week, which means they don't think a lot of points will be scored in this game, which means that's good for your defense. Now, Pittsburgh's 6.5-point favorites in this game, but still, you think Chicago could have an interception or two here against Ben, or a few sacks against him. And with that offensive line that Pittsburgh is putting out there, I definitely think you could have a decent game here from the Bears.
And that's the one I look at and I say, listen, this is the day for, even if Mac is gimpy, Robert Quinn. The problem with that the Bears have faced is they face that quarterback that's been able to get away from the pressure. Ben ain't getting away from nothing. If the pressure comes, he's just got to sit there and take it and try to make a throw through it. So this could be a career day for Robert Quinn, which kid will never let me live down. He's actually playing well. Let's finish it out with
Robert Quinn questions. Underrated.
I don't know if I'd say that. He's paid enough that he's rated right.
Fair enough. That's a good point. Good point.
10-team full PPR. Should I trade Khalil, Herbert, and Justin Jefferson for Adam Thielen and Damian Harris? I wouldn't. But what do you guys think?
So I think I would do this deal because Thielen's touchdown upside has already made him the better play this year than Justin Jefferson. Now, I think that evens out, and Jefferson probably is the better play. Yeah. But I think the difference that you're getting with Harris being who he is right now for that Patriots team as the focal point of the offense, plus that's season long, barring injury, whereas Herbert's going to deal with Montgomery coming back to the offense as well. So I think, and full point PPR, I think I would do this deal.
Mm-hmm.
We'll finish it off with Become Legendarius. Awesome name, by the way. I like
that's awesome.
Great name.
I got offered T. Higgins and DeAndre Swift for Deontay Johnson and Zach Moss. How soon should I hit accept?
Right now.
Yeah, I would take this deal. Absolutely.
Does he know that he's given? All right, fleece him.
Yeah.
Listen,
I love Deontay, but yeah, you're getting. I mean, T. Higgins and Deontay are pretty interchangeable, and then but Swift is way better than Moss. So
I got Kyle Pitts for Tyler Boyd from Ringo, so I feel
man,
fleeced of the year, fleeced.
What a good job.
And honestly, Tyler Boyd had the better week, and Ringo left him on the bench, so still a good fleece.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, the Fantasy Whispers are always dropping content over on their channel. Make sure to check them out on YouTube as well. Also, tweet them questions. Hold on, I think I got it right here. Let me drop that right there. Bow. Twitter at Johnny Game Time _ Game Time and at Big Travy TFW. Boys, we appreciate y'all for tuning in with us another week. Do you have any fantasy little nugget that you might not have dropped on the show, the one that you got tucked in your ear that you don't want your guys to know about until you make the move? You got any nuggets to leave with the people with before we get up out of here?
You might be wanting to pick up Jeff Wilson. It's a couple weeks. His practice window got activated, but if you have the bench room to stash him, we've seen that Shanahan likes him. And then last year he was the RB26 after Mostert went down, and he worked in relief there. So should something happen to Eli Mitchell, I think Wilson could be the really good backup here.
Man, that's how you get it done. All right, I'll allow one more because you got it in just before I was going to end it. He has the number one waiver pick. Not sure who to get, AP or Nichols.
AP.
Yep. We've been riding AP all show. So AP
AD.
My boy. Hey, I love it. Hey, boys, we appreciate you guys for tuning in with us another week. As always, man, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We're doing this every week. And make sure to check out the boys over on the Fantasy Whispers because they're doing this every single day. They're making sure to drop you with nuggets and all those tidbits that maybe you don't get here weekly. We appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking with us. As always, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Hey, yo. Y'all stay safe out there, man. Peace.
Peace.